What if lingerie wasn't about who sees it, but how it makes you feel? T-Duke invites you to step into your power, to slip into something that doesn't hide you, it highlights you. Lingerie isn't just lace and straps, it's confidence you can feel against your skin. It's permission to embrace your body, your desire, your charm. T-Duke believes confidence starts from within. With their signature message, "You are the origin of the charm," lingerie becomes armor, not to protect you from the world, but to help you show up unapologetically in it. This Valentine's season, we're celebrating self expression, intimacy, and the bold magic that happens when you dress for yourself. Try on T Duke's Valentine's Day special, the Leora set. Share your glow on social media and tag at T Duke Official to co create the moment. Because sexy isn't something you perform, it's something you own. T Duke, wear your confidence.
No need to knock, the door's unlocked. Come on in, let's have some fun. We'll make it hot, won't wanna stop. Slide on into Suburban Slut. No need to knock, the door's unlocked. Come on in, let's have some fun. We'll make it hot, won't wanna stop. Slide on into Suburban Slut.
Hey there, slutties, and welcome to another episode of the Suburban Slut Podcast, your home for kinkery, sluttery, fuckery, and everything in between. I am your fantastic host, Sammy Switch, and welcome to the neighborhood. Slide on in and let's get a little intimate and cozy, shall we? First and foremost, of course, where to help find and support the show you love oh so much. Well, Patreon. Of course, for just $5 a month, you will get exclusive content like Sammy's Side Quest, ad-free episodes, early access, and access to chat directly with other slutties in our community. That's patreon.com. And yes, we are in the 18 or older section because we are proud sluts, so make sure to head over there. And for $5 a month, well, what can $5 a month get you right now? I'm trying to think. The last time I went to Taco Bell, I got a beefy double burrito and a cheese and rice and beans burrito, and that was like $5.55. That's more for one quick meal compared to $5 of access for an entire month for Suburban Slut Podcast. So make sure to head over there and check us out and sign up today. Where else? Well, let's see if my phone will work. Good Lord. More to come. Just hold tight and listen. We'll get there. Come flirt with us on Instagram, Suburban Slut Podcast, and on X Twitter at Suburban Slut Pod, where you'll also find our link tree. Drop comments on our post and repost to help other slutties find us because, well, like finds like. And speaking of the link tree, just go ahead and jump in there now and get this out of the way. We have officially launched our merch store. That's right. Suburban Slut Podcast on Spreadshirt. Yes, that's Spreadshirt. Like to say it like that. Make sure to go over there and check out. You can get the logo itself or the logo with background on, my God, tank tops, bags, t-shirts, baseball t-shirts, mouse pads, coffee mugs, no sex toys yet. I'm still working on that. But yes, you can go and buy merch for the show you love so much and help support the show that way. That's honestly the best way because then people see us and they go, oh my God, Suburban Slut Podcast. I think I want to listen to that. Let me go check that out. So yes, so thank you in advance. And of course, for right now, first time launch. First time launch, we do have a special promo code that is running from tomorrow, March 4th through March 8th. 25% off your order. That's right. 25% off. That's a quarter of the price knocked off. So go ahead and stock up on shirts and any other accessories that you want to show your favorite show on. Again, that's in our link tree. It's Spreadshirt, and the shop is suburban-slut-podcast. Can't wait to see you over there, and definitely make sure to, every time that phone goes off, I'm telling you kids, you would think I would know by now to put the phone on silent. Still working on that. Any hoozles, you can also find me on FetLife as Sammy Switch for a much more X-rated view of me. On Facebook as Sammy Switch, and on the podcast page, Suburban Slut Podcast, with lives coming soon. I think we're like 2 followers away. Once we hit that magic number, we can do live, so we're getting there. Of course, YouTube, yes, we're finally up and running, so smash that like and subscribe button like a hot Tinder date. Wherever you get your podcast, we are on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, as well as many, many more. And of course, most importantly, I want to hear from you. Email is suburbanslutpodcast@gmail.com. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your confessions. Ooh, confess your sins to me. And questions, whether it's lifestyle related, toy related, whatever. I'm here to talk, so any questions, hit me up. Now, our newer section of the show, of course, the sponsors, the people that help the show, that collaborate with the show and help make the neighborhood fun for everybody. Exxxotica Expo is less than 40 days away. I am not prepared at all. Come for the stars. Literally, they may ask you to. Stay for the panels and play in the interactive dungeon. Chicago, April 10th through 12th at the Donald E. Stevens Convention Center. The host hotel, unfortunately, is booked up. I was able to get my foot in the door, so I will be hosting interviews and collabs with other creators throughout the weekend. We're going to be talking them up very shortly. And of course, we will be on hand all 3 days at the Donald E. Stevens Convention Center for Exxxotica, April 10th through 12th. Make sure to go to exxxoticaexpo.com to get your tickets ASAP. Boys Town West, the party focused on bi males, is coming up again on April 3rd in Aurora. Message me for details or visit friendsnightout.com for details about all their parties hosted at the clubhouse. This will be the second Boys Town West party. If you listened last week, you heard the review, and we had a lot of fun. So I hope you come out and have a lot of fun with us too. T-Duke, good old T-Duke on Instagram. That's at TIDOUK. To see their lovely lingerie sets hosted by some of your favorite neighborhood slutties such as Moonshine Bondage. Lovin's, the best vibes you can get in and out of the bed. What's better than sneaky vibes making you quiver and squirm? Getting $10 off your purchase. That's right, $10 off your initial purchase thanks to the Suburban Slut Podcast. Find our link for the coupon in our link tree and start shopping on Lovin's immediately. The nipple clamps, the interactive vibes, there's so much good vibes to have over there. Steamworks Chicago, yes, on this very episode, we have Nirm from Steamworks Chicago, so make sure to check out them at steamworksbaths.com. And if you want to let off a little steam with college boys, trans folk, and bears, oh my, check their event calendar to see which night calls to you at steamworksbaths.com. Well, my slutties, I am officially moved. I am now in a small town called Hebron, Illinois. That's like northern Illinois, right next to Woodstock. And yes, we have history with Woodstock. First solo apartment, kind of echoey. Going to work on that. Need to put up panels, all that stuff, reverb. But yes, I am moved in. I am official. And this is my first episode from the brand new Slut Stop 2.0. So bear with me. There's a lot coming up. This weekend, I was completely bamboozled with moving, unpacking, setting up stuff. I'm still not completely done, but work calls and the podcast calls. So, prioritize. And I got to make sure my slutties are taken care of this week. I didn't want to leave you guys without an episode. I didn't want to leave you hanging, waiting to hear all the amazing facts and info about Steamworks Baths from good old Nirm, who was an absolute amazing person to talk to. Oh, so easy to talk to, laid back, sounds very handsome. Probably, no, I can confirm. He is very handsome guy. So stay tuned for the interview with Nirm and for Steamworks. I will be attending them shortly. I'm going to get a date in the books, and I'll let you guys, girls, theys, and thems know next week in case you want to come out and get steamy with Sammy. And yes, so for the merch store, this just launched. Really excited about it, really nervous, really confident, and just all the emotions. So yes, please find our link tree on Instagram or Twitter. I will also share this on the Facebooks and whatnot, but it's spreadshirt.com and it's suburban-slut-podcast. And again, from tomorrow, March 4th through March 8th, you will get 25% off your order. So if that shirt's $20, nope, we're going to knock it down to $15. And any other amount, you're going to have to do the math yourself. I'm sorry, I can't help with that part. So yes, Exxxotica is coming up. I have so many interviews lined up with Exxxotica people, with models, with content creators, with everything Exxxotica. So the next 4 weeks, stay tuned, and it's gonna get crazy. Yes, we have lots of interviews coming and lots of info about Exxxotica. So again, just one more time, exxxoticaexpo.com. Come out, Ladies Free Friday. Tickets are on sale on their website. The host hotel is sold out, but you can find nearby hotels, so make sure to research that. And I really hope to see you out there. So I know it's there's so much happening at once. And yes, we will get settled in. We will get thanks, computer. We will get things back in order and running smoothly. So bear with us with the adjustments and whatnot. But in the meantime, please enjoy this lovely interview with Nirm from Steamworks Baths, Chicago. Make sure to check out their website. Make sure to help. Once you listen to the episode and you realize how much they really give back to the community, you're going to want to help them as much as you can. So enjoy our interview with Nirm. And that's going to be it for this week, slutties. Nice, quick, and easy. Next week, there's going to be interviews coming galore and more content galore too. So make sure next week's episode is going to be that segment on consent and stories that I know you've all been eagerly waiting for. It will come out next week. I pinky promise. So until then, stay safe, stay slutty, and enjoy my time with Nirm from Steamworks. Bye-bye. Nirm, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the neighborhood. Thank you so much for sliding in this week.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let me ask you right off the bat. So for listeners who may not be familiar with Steamworks Chicago, how do you describe Steamworks in your own words?
Best way for me to describe Steamworks is kind of by mentioning our mission and vision, because it's the same for all of our clubs. Our mission is to provide a social and safe space for men who have sex with men, trans and non-binary people to explore their sexuality and identity. And our vision is to foster a community of body and sex positivity through education, holistic prevention programming, as well as wellness initiatives. So that is sort of how we described the business, but I can give you some better descriptions from some of our customers and also some of our not so friendly people in the community. So you might enjoy that. So yeah, you're gonna love that.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So rather than describe it just for me, I mean, I could just say, we're also called the Barneys of bathhouses by some customers. We've been called that. Another person called us Disneyland for gay sex.
Oh.
But I think the best, yeah, I know, right? The best description of us comes from a right-wing blogger slash LGBT hater, LGBTQ
Wow.
hater. And he I don't want to give him his name
Yeah, they
or
don't
his
need credit.
or his right-wing website, but I will say I swear to God, this is his description of Steamworks Chicago, and I don't think I could do any better. All right, are you ready?
Oh, I'm
He
ready.
said, "Yeah, it's Steamworks, a Chicago homosexual bathhouse where men go for indiscriminate, anonymous sexual encounters with other men. What goes on in a bathhouse? I can only know from reading accounts by people who have been there. Young men, young and old, pay to get in. Then they buy a locker for their clothes, $5 off the usual price with a student ID. This is all on this right-wing blogger's website, including the $5 off with
I
the
was going
student
to say
ID.
he gave the
Yeah,
promo.
yeah. Oh, yeah. He keeps going. Yeah, yeah. You should see what he says about our hot tub. And then you walk around in a towel, which of course makes it easier to engage in sodomies with complete strangers. Customers can pay extra for a private room. There is a sauna. Actually, we have two dry saunas,
Oh,
shower and hot tub, and surely sodomitic, I don't even know if that's a word, sodomitic acts, yeah, it's fantastic, occur in all three. Homosexual pornography spews from TVs throughout the building to stoke the
gasp.
hype. Oh yeah, to stoke the hypersexual orgiastic atmosphere. I think one of my new favorite words of
Yeah,
2026. I'm not
writing
sure if it
that
is a
down.
word, but orgiastic. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Orgiastic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think this right-wing LGBT hater, who I'm sure is closeted, would probably give
Of
it. That's the
course.
best description. Yeah, that's the best description. I'm a big fan of orgiastic atmospheres.
Oh,
So yeah,
absolutely.
definitely, Steamworks Chicago is definitely an orgiastic atmosphere for
Yep.
sure.
That's the next tagline. There you go.
For an orgiastic good time, right? Exactly.
Right, of course. I mean, it also gives circling back because I've been called a Disney dad before, and I'm like, huh, I could actually use that in this aspect, and I like that version a lot fucking better. So,
Right?
yeah,
Exactly.
so speaking of yourself, so what was for you, what was your path to becoming the general manager of Steamworks, and what about the space pulled you in personally?
So, I always make the joke that I'm finally making all the money back that I spent at Steamworks over the years because yeah, right. I know. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh, okay.
And I've been going to Steamworks there since I was like 18. So, I came out early. There was no Indian gays other than really
Mm,
me around. Indian gays weren't really big until outsourcing. But yeah, yeah, yeah. I was always that Latino or the Italian guy. They always thought that first. But
mm,
yeah, and so my personal journey, is sort of from the private sector and sales and business development to public health. I worked as in prevention and outreach for the Haight-Ashbury for medical clinics for a number of years, and
oh,
I
wow.
developed a real passion for prevention advocacy, community engagement, and community building. And I've always been very proud of Steamworks, the company's long-standing commitment to prevention advocacy programming, as well
Mm,
as long history of LGBTQ plus activism and support for HIV STI testing, to LGBTQ youth programs, needle exchange and more. The dearly departed owner of Steamworks, Rick Stokes, he ran against Harvey Milk for the supervisor seat.
oh,
Steamworks was, yeah, way back when, and he, Steamworks as a whole was one of the charter businesses for the first out gay business alliance in San Francisco, the Golden Gate Business Alliance. And so we've had a long history of supporting youth initiatives, LGBT youth initiatives, LGBT organizations, AIDS service
mhm.
organizations. And it really felt like me moving into this position. I originally came as the director of health programs. I was coordinating all their prevention and outreach for all their different sites. And, when I became the general manager here, it was one of my kind of goals to integrate more of that community wellness and prevention advocacy initiatives into the position more and become a direct link for the community for those kinds of initiatives as they relate to Steamworks. And so, you know, that kind of stuff is really what pulled me in, their
Right.
commitment to the community, but also their engagement in the community. And sex positivity and wellness is something I'm very passionate about, so it really felt like a good fit. I'm not one of those corporate that takes that kind of road. I prefer to, I think, I guess I'm kind of different. I wanted a job that was different. I
Right.
wanted something that related to my passion, but with more of a private sector income. And so I'm very, very, very proud that I can do that here.
Yeah, that's what I'm really looking forward to. I mean, no spoiler alert to upcoming questions, but I know a lot of people I feel aren't aware of how much Steamworks actually does for the community and gives
Yeah,
back, and the safety preventions on top of it. Because you would think most people hear of a bathhouse and they're probably like, oh my God, it's just unprotected sex and no caution. And no,
of
it's,
course.
we're very
We do a lot.
cautious in this 2026. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So for you, what makes, and of course, I live in the suburbs here, so I don't claim I'm from Chicago. I'm from Elgin, so I know I'm in the burbs right next to Schaumburg.
Right.
But Chicago is absolutely a vibe. So for you, what makes Chicago's queer scene feel different from other cities you've worked in or visited, and especially now knowing coming from San Francisco? I mean, those are two
Yeah.
huge communities right there, Chicago and San Fran.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love San Francisco. I grew up in the Bay Area. I went to college there and everything. I firmly believe that Chicago has such a rich, diverse queer scene, in my opinion. That comes from a city with a very multicultural and a lot of ethnic backgrounds and
Hmm.
so many different types of queer people that live here. Lots of cultures and queer identities reside in Chicago and the surrounding suburbs because
Hmm.
so many queer kids from surrounding red states, small farm towns, etc., want to come to Chicago, the third largest city in the US. So it feels different because it is such a melting pot of so many different types of people. And I
Right.
feel like the queer scene is very represented by different types of people, and it doesn't let certain people kind of go by the wayside because they want to stand up and be noticed. And I'm really excited about that. And that's kind of what makes it different, at least for me from San Francisco. I don't know if all cultures in the queer community are represented as well as they are in Chicago, or at least
Huh.
have that opportunity to feel like they're as represented. I really feel like there's much more of a diversity here in some ways than I feel I ever saw in San Francisco.
Oh wow, yeah. Because I know with some of the Chicago, the clubs, the dance clubs, and everything, like it's very, like you're saying, it's welcoming to all identities, all whatever you
Exactly.
are in your community, we accept you, and that's honestly very refreshing, especially even coming from the burbs. Like back in the day, I grew up in the '80s out here, so. It wasn't the most welcoming or friendly communities, but once you traveled to the city and found your people, it was just like, holy shit, this is what it's supposed to be like.
Right, absolutely it is. And I love that about the city. And it's growing. It really is growing. I mean, they've
Hmm.
made such changes. And I really believe that there is when I described the Chicago to some people years ago when I moved here, and this is back in 2007, 2008, there was still such a change that was happening here that wasn't happening in San Francisco. They'd
Oh,
had gay marriage. The mayor back then, it was Gavin Newsom. He had
yes.
pushed for gay marriage back in like 2004. And so it seemingly was a very progressive city that had really pushed for so much more. Whereas Chicago, they were still pushing for, civil unions.
Hmm.
And so the fight was still ongoing here. And so there was a lot of that grassroots movement to push more of a progressive agenda, even in the Midwest, towards a more progressive, front for the queer scene. And I think that it really engaged me a lot because I think some people in larger cities, even in San Francisco, and this is my opinion, can sometimes take that for granted that all that work that was done to make
Right.
San Francisco such a gay mecca or an LGBT mecca. Whereas Chicago had a slower start to it, and in
Hmm.
large part, I think because of the surrounding states that had red policies, and people weren't as ready for all that, and so
Oh,
you got
yeah.
a chance to get so in the weeds of prevention, advocacy, LGBT rights, and people were so engaged in that. And so I was really proud to see so many small groups of people really, spouting up and trying to make the city so much more progressive for the queer scene. So I really feel like there is the city is such a change maker, not just
Right.
for, the Chicago area, but really for a lot of the Midwest. It sets the tone, I think.
Oh, yeah. Especially with the Midwest. I mean, I never even thought about it that way. But with, Wisconsin, Michigan, everyone right around us, it really is. This is the cultural melting pot, and we're just expanding, and people are picking up those vibes. Absolutely.
I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So speaking of community and connection, so what role do you think Steamworks plays in queer connection, like especially for folks who may not feel safe or seen elsewhere?
You know, I can only answer it in terms of the bathhouse.
Right.
Um, in terms of what we do, I mean, so we feel like I mean, obviously, I said before we offer provide a social and safe space for
Hmm.
MSM trans, but really there's so much more to it. I mean, if you are somebody who is an Alcoholics Anonymous, if you are somebody that is a trans man, and if you are going through that very, very difficult and very incredible journey,
Hmm.
there are not a lot of places for you to explore that identity and that
No,
side of
there is
yourself,
not.
especially if you're a trans man who identifies as gay. And so, for people in that community, but also for people who are in recovery from from drug addiction or alcohol
Right.
addiction, there are not a lot of spaces for them to kind of explore their identity without alcohol, without drugs, and kind of re-engage their sexual side. And so we provide that space. People that are just coming out, that are sociophobic, people that are bisexual, that may
Hmm.
not want to go to a gay bar because that's not who they are. So I think that we do get a large amount of all different types of people, from bi-curious to trans to people that are in recovery, that feel like this is a space where they can kind of connect. And also for people potentially that are, have HIV, or people that are dealing with HIV or living with HIV, the stigma of, having to out yourself potentially on the apps or any of those things.
Oh,
You can do it in sort of a more private setting.
right.
Obviously, have that conversation about consent, have that conversation about your status, and potentially meet other like-minded people at events that might cater directly to them. So they might meet somebody else so that they don't have to deal with that constant exhaustion of
Oh, yeah.
of coming out to somebody and telling him all this, and and waiting for them to be okay with it or not. You know, that is really, I think, important, to have those kinds of spaces, and also, obviously for gay men to feel like they have safe spaces as well. So I really think it's important to have those kinds of spaces, and I think that we play a integral role in gathering different types of people together for a variety of reasons, and helping them to feel connected here, but also feel like, where they come to Steamworks, we do stuff with the community. We are engaged with it.
True.
So they don't feel like they're just coming to a bathhouse. They feel like, okay, you guys are connected to the community and I see it. And it's nice to feel that, and I think people want that, with businesses that they go to now. They want to see engagement in the community. They want to see giving, and we're very much about that. So I'm very proud that we reach I think a larger audience with some of the things that we do, and I think we attract people from a variety of backgrounds that want to explore their identity, and we're happy to provide that safe space for them to do it, along with free HIV STI testing provided by a number of organizations we work with, and that's also I think great for people to feel like they have that available.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'll say, to be honest, I'm also, sober currently. I'm 8 months plus sober. And speaking of AA in that aspect, I did try to find, when I first started my journey, like gay groups or LGBTQ groups. And the nearest one, like, I think is somewhere downtown in Andersonville, I believe. And then there's one more in maybe Naperville.
Yeah,
And I was like, there's where, like, I don't want to drive an hour plus,
yeah,
every other day or something. It's like, it was very hard to find communities because it's a very old school frame of mind. And
right.
it's very difficult. Like, I've never come out in my AA group just because it's just not, it's not the vibe in there. I'm like, I feel like I just can't be myself. But, I did find a youth group, and that was the closest thing to where I could, I'm 45. I mean, I look kind of
Mhm.
young sometimes, but, they're open to all ages. And that's what I told them. I'm like, I came to you guys because, the generation growing up now is more open, is more fluid. And I feel like I can be myself there more than the other group. So it's hard to find your community. And yeah, it
It's true.
really looks like Steamworks is very welcoming to everyone. So that's
We try to
amazing.
be. We try to
Yeah.
be. You know,
And-
we do our best. We make mistakes like anybody else, but we do
Oh,
our
yeah.
best to learn.
We are human. Yeah, so I know we kind of touched on this too with the safety and consent are huge topics in queer nightlife and play spaces all around. And we always say consent is sexy, never
100%.
when someone consents, it's such a turn on just hearing it like yes, enthusiastically. So how does
100%.
yeah, how does Steamworks cannot talk today, prioritize those values at Steamworks?
So, we are yeah, a big proponent of consent. It's funny you said consent is sexy. That's actually the tagline on our consent materials that we have here.
Hmm,
Just because you're here and you happen to be enjoying the facility in a towel does not imply consent. We have
exactly.
consent message. Yeah, absolutely. We have consent messaging in our internal ad monitors and around our facility regarding consent that run 24/7, 365. Our messaging to our customers and what we educate our team is always ask permission, check in frequently during any interaction,
Oh
respect
yeah, love
boundaries.
check-ins.
Yeah, absolutely. Consent is continual, should be enthusiastic, and it's revocable. As always,
Oh,
no means no. So those messages are out and around Steamwork so that people understand that we really believe in consent. And we make sure that people understand that safety is paramount. If people feel, we try to make it clear if there is any issue here, please come to the manager right now, talk to
oh,
us.
okay.
We tell our customers the same kind of thing we tell our staff if somebody's bothering you or they're not taking no for an answer right away, a very non-confrontational way of making that person go away if they just are not taking the hint when you say no
Right.
thank you, is to look at their room or locker key, because everybody gets a room or a locker when they come in, and they rent one or the other, and
Mhm.
somebody can look at their room or locker key and say, oh, what room or locker key are you in? And they ask for it and they look at it and they can say, look, if you don't stop bothering me, I'm going to tell the front desk that locker
Oh,
whatever or room whatever is bothering me, and they'll have to deal with it. So please
there you
don't
go.
make me do that. A very
Right.
non-confrontational way of saying, look, I don't want to say anything, but I'm going to if you don't
Yeah.
stop. So putting a limit on it, saying, look, I'm going to take away your sex for the rest of the day if you don't stop and leave me alone. And
There
that
you go.
reminds people that, hey, you know what? No means no. And if you don't
Right.
take it seriously, you're going to get in trouble. And so we
You're
try
gonna
to make
learn
sure
real
people feel
quick.
like, yeah, absolutely, 100%. We don't have any time for that.
No, no, no. It's time for fun and consent. Come on, guys.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. So, what misconceptions do people have about bathhouses when it comes to health and responsibility?
Oh, wow.
I know that's a
Oof.
big one. Yeah.
That's a big one. It's a big
Like, how
one.
much time
There
do you got?
are, oh my God, right? Seriously. There are a lot out there. For one, that it's dirty and unkept.
Hmm.
We're proud of our regular and rigorous cleaning schedule. It's why Steamworks smells like bleach when you walk in. Um,
Nice and clean.
Yeah, of course. Our major room and public areas are deep cleaned weekly and on a regular basis, and that includes our hot tub and steam room area that is checked for any issues daily,
Oh,
and
wow.
every Tuesday is drained and scrubbed to maintain our quality of excellence. I mean, people, also that's other potential misconceptions is that everyone here is doing nefarious or borderline sketchy things inside. We offer a sex positive space, and some people have their own hangups about that.
Sure.
We don't allow, we have zero tolerance drug and alcohol. We're very
Oh.
strict about our bag policy with things that come in.
Hmm.
And that when it comes to our responsibility towards the health and wellness, we have our testing and outreach partners over the years have ranged from Howard Brown Health to the City of Chicago, Center on Halsted, Puerto Rican Cultural Center, Test Positive Aware Network, Calor, Chicago House,
Oh,
and many
wow.
others over the years,
Yeah.
participating in wellness surveys. We take the health and wellness not only of our customers but of our community very seriously. We work with our UIC Public Health Department and the City of Chicago to do wellness survey initiatives to track people's behaviors as it pertains
Oh,
to the mpox outbreak, as it pertains to the COVID vaccine situation way back when, just to
oh, yeah.
gather data on on what they call collective sex venues, or CSV. That's a new acronym.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and that data then can be turned over to the CDC, or be used to discuss people's hesitancy towards engaging in, say, doxypep, which is medication you can take before engage in potentially unprotected sex or even sex in general to prevent the passing of STIs. Doxypep is fairly new, and people are taking that prior to sexual encounters so that they can prevent the spread of STIs. Well, it's important that in a sexually charged space like ours, we want to know if our customers feel comfortable doing that. And
Hmm.
most recently, our survey that we did this last summer was focused on mental health and the political climate, and whether or not the current political climate was affecting the specifically the LGBTQ community's mental health. And I
Mm.
wanted to really find out that information. So we work with the City of Chicago, we work with UIC Public Health Department,
Wow.
and create these surveys that are then sent out through our e-blasts to ascertain how people feel about that kind of information, whether or not a specifically targeted community from the government is making people feel unsafe, or less safe than they were before. As it relate to Mpox, when monkeypox was very huge back in 22,
Yeah.
we did a real-time survey while we were doing, vaccinations here to collect the data on how a specific community feels about a emerging mini epidemic or pandemic or demic in general with a vaccine, and whether when that vaccine is not readily available to the community, how that affects their mental health. So the
Oh.
delay in getting that out to the people when they know there's a cure, there's a preventative way of keeping this from spreading, but not getting it out quickly from the federal government, how does that affect the mental health of that community? The anxiety, because there's such a correlation to AIDS and HIV when that first emerged back in the
Right.
80s. The anxiety of being kind of forgotten as a community and kind of the majority of the government that way back when. I mean, Reagan didn't actually say HIV AIDS until 1984, 85. He
Ooh.
wouldn't say it. He wouldn't say it for years.
I
And
never
so
knew
they kind
that.
of let it rampantly just expand and mutate, and at the detriment of our community, which lost
Right.
hundreds of thousands of lives. And what here we were with another virus that was directly impacting our community, and there was a vaccine. And the fact that the government wasn't putting it out as quickly, I wanted to get that same kind of survey collection method in
Hmm.
place even while we were doing vaccinations here, because I wanted to have that data so that if the CDC came asking for any data related to the outbreak as it pertains to our community and how our community or this community feels about there being a lag in vaccines being readily available, we had that data. And sure enough, the
Exactly.
CDC did ask for it. And
Oh,
so we
wow.
were glad that we had it. So, some of the misconceptions I think out there about bathhouses really is that we don't participate in the community, or that we don't participate in the health and wellness. And
Exactly.
that's just not true.
No.
I just don't think that's true. I think that a lot of the bathhouse, I mean, I was on the board of directors for the North American Bathhouse Association. I'm a member now. And I can tell you firsthand from a collection of bathhouses that I've been to conferences, they are all very, very concerned and very, very engaged in the health and wellness of their respective communities.
Wow, that's amazing.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
and I mean, especially, speaking of being involved, right now we are currently at it's the 50-year anniversary, correct? The
That's right.
1976. Yep.
That is
So
right.
current, yeah, see, I did my homework. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so the 50-year anniversary, you're also promoting 50 weeks of giving every Wednesday.
That's
So
right.
speaking of being deeply involved in giving back, can you talk about the charitable work and the partnerships you're very passionate about, including this 50 weeks of giving currently?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is. I'm very excited about that. It is something that we've done. We've done this before. I mean, we are celebrating 50 years this year. Steamworks celebrates 50 years in April of this year, and that's Steamworks as a company. The Chicago location actually turns 35 in June. So we've been around since June of 1991, and the Steamworks company as a whole since 1976. And we've done a lot of fundraising and work over the years. Again, I've talked about the surveys, and a lot of people don't know as it pertains to the Mpox outbreak. We were one of the only if not the only bathhouse in the nation that had vaccinations that were being done on site. And
Oh,
we worked
wow.
directly with the city of Chicago on vaccine distribution and
Hmm.
logistics, setting up actual vaccine coordinated efforts. And when we were first approached about this, when Mpox first was coming out, we talked to the city of Chicago and said, look, the only way you're going to be able to do vaccinations here in Steamworks is if we can vaccinate the bar and business employees, because now they're the
Oh,
frontline
yeah.
workers of this outbreak. And so the city said,
Oh.
fine, if you can recruit all these bar business employees in say
Hmm.
48 to 72 hours and get them into Steamworks to get vaccinated, we'll do this with you. And so
Wow.
that kind of put all this onus on us to do it. And so we
Yeah.
came up with a plan. We came up with a plan. We got them all in here, mainly because the cities, various Department of Public Health and various large cities have stockpiles of vaccines, but they don't have enough for everybody. And so
Hmm.
before the federal government is going to get all these vaccines to everybody, they were only working within the stockpiles they had. And we were basically telling them, hey, we need to get these other people vaccinated. And so our
Right.
thinking was getting them, the bar business employees, vaccinated quickly. Would then kind of they would be sort of the sort of ambassadors to the vaccine, telling people it's no big deal, because at that point people were having vaccine fatigue from so much from COVID vaccines. And so we tried to prioritize our community as well as our customers, to make sure that our community was safe. And then we ended up, doing so many vaccinations here over time. Ended up doing over 2,500 vaccinations that summer here at
Wow.
Steamworks. And our Berkeley location was doing vaccinations as well.
Hmm.
But we were working directly with the city on logistical plans and everything, and it's kind of turned our third floor into a makeshift pop-up clinic where people would kind of go upstairs and get their vaccinations, and they would be taken up by me. And so as it pertains to partnerships, that was something that really reminded people this is why we're here and this is what we
Yeah.
can do. And as it relates to our 50 years of giving, it's not
Hmm.
just the surveys. We use giving Wednesdays or days of interest, like Veterans Day. 10% of our Veterans Day income goes to an LGBT veterans organization called American Veterans for Equal Rights. We usually match that money that we kind of get from that entry to donate to them. And over the years since 2015, we end up donating over $6,000 to that organization. Thank you,
Wow.
obviously, to our LGBT vets for their service.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, and we've been doing an annual food and perishable item drive for a free pantry on the north side called Groceryland. Since 2013, customers get $5 off for, bringing in a food item. And some people feel better about coming here and doing that than they do at a bar, obviously,
Oh,
because maybe they're
yeah.
sober and they feel like they can. And recently, we started giving Wednesdays. It's not just that. We've done stuff for hurricane relief, Ukraine back in 2022,
Hmm.
raising money for the Ricky Martin Foundation for hurricane relief. But, recently we started these Giving Wednesdays. So 10%, 5% of the income we make every Wednesday goes to a different organization every month. That's our
Oh,
50
okay.
weeks of giving. So that started
Yes.
in January, but it originally started actually back in November of last year when the SNAP benefits, if you recall, the
Oh,
federal
yeah.
government put a pause. Yeah, if you recall, there was a
Ooh, that
they
was
put all
rough.
these, it was awful. And there are so many people out there that were, in need of food assistance, and, we're having issues with food insecurity. And some of that was related to, ICE issues, families that could not leave their house to go to work.
Hmm.
because they were afraid of being stopped by ICE. And so now these families can't work. And so it's not necessarily anything to do with, us specifically and what we do, but we wanted to do something. So Giving Wednesday kind of started there. And so we started it on November the 5th, and it ran till the end of the year. And every Wednesday we were giving 5% of our entry money to the Greater Chicago Food Depository.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, and we ended up raising 3,800 for that. And so we ended up donating
Wow.
$3,800 for that. And
Good on you.
people are like, "That's a bathhouse?" Shocking.
Right.
I didn't know you guys did all that. They're like, "Wait, why do you guys care about that?" Well, we do because it's the right thing to do, and because
Exactly.
we have staff members that are of Latin descent. We have a very multicultural staff, and we want to make sure our staff feel like they are seen, and that maybe
Mm-hmm.
families that they know are being taken care of, especially by where they work. Even if they can't do it themselves, they know that where they work is actively engaged with something that they can do. And so that kind of started the idea of 50 weeks of giving. And so again, like I said, now since January 1st, every Wednesday, and it goes until the end of 2026. Every month, a different organization or charity will be identified and decided, and they will get the 5% of every Wednesday's entry money that'll be donated to them. So, first month, January, was Chicago House Social Service
Oh,
Agents.
yeah.
They're amazing. February is Task Force Chicago. They're an amazing prevention advocacy organization that focuses on brown and black LGBT youth,
Oh,
and they're incredible grassroots organization. We're very proud to be supporting them in February. March is going to be AIDS Foundation Chicago. And even it goes even farther than just that. We also took one of our biggest prize, items here, big ticket item called our Black Cards, which is our Black VIP
oh,
membership card that we do kind of every summer. And it's a VIP membership card that is, unique and different every summer. And it gets you in quicker to some of the larger parties. But
okay.
we turned that into a fundraiser as well. So when we came back from the pandemic, I sort of was like, I want to do something different with these cards. And so every summer, since like say 2023, we've been doing that. And so, for example, in our black card for 2023 had a drag queen on there, and we raised $25,000 for the American Civil Liberties Union to for the Drag Defense Fund. And
Wow.
we just the question was always the same whenever people found out or was curious about this, or like, "You guys are from where? You guys are doing what? You're a what
Right.
again? A bathhouse? Like, wait, you guys are doing, like, are you serious?" And so we kind of like, "No, no, seriously, we are convincing you that we're trying to give you money. All we need to
Yeah.
do is get your okay." And so, the idea is that, you don't have to have these drag artists and these artists in your business doing shows
No.
to support them. And so we wanted to make sure that we raised money and kept that message about what the American Civil Liberties was doing to fighting against LGBT trans hatred across the country. We wanted to keep that message out there after people had stopped talking about it. If you recall, people were talking about it March, April 23, and then people stopped talking about it when
Mm-hmm.
RuPaul's Drag Race stopped talking about it, but that was
Oh,
still
yeah.
going on. And so our idea with these Black Card fundraisers is we start that messaging, say in April or May, and then we keep that message going and through like August. And so even when people
Oh,
stop talking about it, we're still promoting the idea
yeah.
that, hey, 10% of every one of these cards goes into a fund towards this organization. So if you are buying this, you're helping us out. So even people that may not be able to afford the black card or buying it, they know where they go is supporting what they believe.
Oh,
And so that
love
changed
that.
every year. Yeah, yeah. And we did that every year. So for example, I mean, I gave you that identity of the black card in 2024 during the election, when everybody was talking about election
Oh,
nonsense
yeah.
and crazy nonsense and all that stuff. I kind of went out on a limb and I said, you know what? I think we should turn our black card fundraiser into something that is cute and fuzzy and nothing to do with politics, to give people a break.
Mm.
So we raised $25,000 for no-kill animal shelters
Oh my
and
God,
animal
that's
rescue
amazing.
and animal rescue organizations across
Fuck
the
yeah.
country. And so every time we got a sale of one of these black cards from a state we hadn't already gotten one from, say South Carolina, South Dakota, we actually got one, a no-kill animal shelter or rescue organization in that state would get an equal cut of what we raised. And so we ended up, getting orders from 35 U.S. states
Hmm.
and one from Spain and one from Mexico for
Ooh.
these black cards, these black
Yeah.
VIP membership cards, these commemorative ones we do. And so we were able to raise 25 grand and then spread that out. So each of those various organizations that we decided on, by the way, props to nokillnetwork.org. It's a phenomenal free site where you can go to find no-kill animal shelters across the country in England and in Australia. Fantastic. Thank you, by the way, nokillnetwork.org. That's where I found a lot of these no-kill networks, no-kill animal shelters. And
Oh,
you'd be surprised. So I'm literally spending all this time, giving $600 or $700 to each of these different places. Rhode Island, for example, there's a no-kill shelter called Potbelly Manor, which saves pigs from being slaughtered. And so
oh.
these people, they would call me or they would send an email or something saying, I'm sorry, did you mean to give this money to us? Are you sure
Right.
you're doing this? And we're like, no, 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 this is for you. We absolutely raise money, and someone happened to buy, a black card from Rhode Island. And
Yeah.
so I
And you're
looked up
no
No Kill
kill.
Shelter, and you guys have 5 stars, and you are seemingly, LGBT positive, and they were shocked. And I met, actually, it's funny, one of the places we gave it to, I believe the place we gave to in Boston,
Mm.
or in Massachusetts or Connecticut, the place that we gave to there happened to be the place that Joe Biden got his dog, the one that ended up biting everybody. That was from
Yes.
that shelter. And so there I
Oh,
was conversing with the executive director, and he's relayed the story. And he's like, "You have no idea how happy we are to get this after." We got so much buzz from that dog, from the dog that was adopted from our
yeah.
shelter, and then when the dog started biting everybody,
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
hated us and got all mad, and so our funding died up. And so during an election year, nobody wants to donate to organizations like us. They're all donating to PACs and to the
Hmm.
candidates. So they were like grateful, so grateful. And this shelter in Mexico, this woman was so grateful as well. She was like, you have no idea, this is going to help us so much. And it's not a lot. It's $600-700 spread out, for each different one. But really giving, doing something that people wouldn't expect from us, that it kind of has
Exactly.
nothing to do with us, but also gives people a bit of relief from all the stuff out there. And, who doesn't love rescue animals? So we did that in 24. And then in 25, I turned the black card into a fundraiser for parents and friends of lesbians and gays. So chapters
Oh,
of PFLAG across the country. So we ended up raising another 25,000, and
wow.
yeah. And so over the summer of 25, I mean, that's separate from all the other stuff we do. But this kept the message of PFLAG out there, and we worked with PFLAG National to direct the money that we'd raise from each of the different, purchases of the black card from the various states, similar to what we did with the animal shelter, um,
Hmm.
uh, 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 you know, method. We worked with PFLAG National and directed a lot of the funds to chapters of PFLAG in southern states, in southern red states,
Hmm.
where they didn't have resources, but were fighting the largest amount of anti-LGBT hate crime bills and bills out there. And so the families there were desperate for any kind of funding so that they could stand up and participate in rallies and gather people together. And so PFLAG was just beyond grateful. They were just like, thank you so much, because we were able to give to like the only PFLAG chapter in Utah a percentage of the money you guys raised.
Right.
With your support, we could direct it directly to them so that they would be able to stay alive. And even talking to them, they this administration, there have been so many scared parents to take their trans kids or LGBT kids to school,
Oh,
to
yeah. I
let
can't
them
even
go to regular
imagine.
schools if they It was so hard to hear some of those stories, and but what was really gratifying also to hear was from this director of development, he was saying like 40 new chapters or so, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but a large
Yeah.
number, I would say 30 to 40 plus new chapters of PFLAG had just come out of nowhere in the last year in 25 when he took office, as all these anti-LGBT initiatives and anti-trans
Oh
initiatives,
yeah.
so many more PFLAG chapters sprung out of red states that were never there before. And PFLAG was having a hard time keeping up with all of these new chapters that had sprung up. And they were desperate for funding because they were like, I
Mm.
don't know how we're going to keep all these people, funded because we don't have all that. So they're like, you have no idea because now we can direct it to these states and to these specific chapters that are new that we
Right.
want to keep out there to keep that fight going. So you never know where some of that work and community activism and giving back can really impact. And we're really grateful that, we have the ability to do that. And we try to be creative with this. I really believe that people want to come to spaces that are giving back and are giving back micro versus just writing a big check. And we
Oh yeah.
try to do that with our initiatives, with our, with the SNAP benefits for the LGBT vets from Ukraine. Back when nobody was talking about Ukraine, we were raising money for Ukraine. Our previous IDT director is an immigrant from Ukraine, and his family, friends, and family were caught during that. And we wanted to raise money for an organization called Sunflower Peace. They send medical backpacks to the front lines, and so
Oh.
it's just a lot of stuff. From charitable work to, partnerships here to community engagement. We try to be a change maker and a part of the community rather than just a participant.
Yeah, and I mean, I never knew any of that to be honest. So I'm floored, and especially with the amounts you guys were able to raise. I mean, it's fucking incredible. I'm sorry, part of my
Yeah.
language, but that's amazing work.
It's very gratifying just to feel like our community really rallies behind those kinds of messages and that they are supportive of us and that we are. I think people want to see that. They want to see businesses, especially LGBT businesses, doing that more. And that's sort of, I'm very proud to say that my company, is doing that 50 weeks of giving and
Right.
to celebrate our 50 years. And then again, we're going to continue that all year round, all year long. And we're doing our summer fundraiser for an organization. I don't want to say what that organization is because that's going to be an announcement. But
Okay,
that's
okay.
separate from this. So that's separate from
Oh,
this.
so that's on top of this.
That's on top of
Wow.
this. That's on top of this. And really, when I was talking to our CEO about that, props to Larry Hickey, our
Hmm.
CEO. It was important that we do this same Black Card fundraiser where we have that commemorative membership card, the Black Card that we do the 10% of the sales for each of those cards goes towards an organization. And I said, that's going to cover most of the summer. He's like, well, we're still going to do the 50 weeks of giving for those months. And I
Right.
said, so it's not going to be. And he's like, no, we should identify. And I'm like, so that's on top of it. So that is
Wow.
on top of that because really, Steamworks has been an organization that has been about giving back regularly. And I wanted to make it something that people saw and that they noticed because I think that is that's what organizations and businesses that are LGBT focused and that are LGBT owned, which we are, should be doing. I think that is our responsibility. And so I'm very grateful that I work for a company that sees that as a priority and that they're fully behind it. That it makes a
Yeah.
lot of difference to me.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, we always have Pride Month, and that's where every company, comes out
Right.
supporting and stuff. But like you said, doing it regularly, that's a huge difference to people, seeing that
You
kind of
keep
effort
going.
and work.
You keep going. You don't want to
Yeah.
stop it. Yeah. Even though we were doing our fundraiser for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program for the Greater Chicago Food Depository, we were
Hmm.
still doing our food donation drive for the Grocery Land Food Bank because it doesn't matter. We're still going to do both, and
Right.
um, I think that's what people want more than anything, and so that's good for all of us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right. So now this next question, this one is very close to me because I myself have never been to Steamworks. I've had dates planned and stuff. And to be honest, I'm an anxious, social, kind of awkward guy like that.
So, for someone who has never stepped into a space like Steamworks, and I am taking notes, what would you want them to know upon entering the door?
Oh God, this is a good question. If someone never,
Yeah.
what would you want? I would want people to know that you're welcome, and that
Mm,
however you look, shape, size, whatever, you are welcome.
love
And
that.
that is a question we get a lot from people on our website. And basically, are people like me going to be there? And do people like
Right.
me, are they going to be represented? And that there isn't that same shame. And if everybody, it's kind of like, if you have never been into here, you don't have to do anything that you don't feel comfortable doing. You
Hmm.
can explore your sexuality or explore your identity as a voyeur. You can explore it as, an exhibitionist. You could, just have fun and kind of get more comfortable in your own space and walk around, because I guess we kind of even the playing field by having everybody in a towel. So, nobody gets to wear a different outfit than the other.
Oh,
And,
okay. No peacocking.
no, of course. And what I want people to feel is that they're coming into a space that cares about what happens to them, cares about the community that they're involved in, hopefully gives them some educational tools and makes them feel better about themselves. They can listen to some great music, have a lot of fun, have an orgiastic time,
There we
as it were,
go.
if they want, right? And I just want them to feel like they are welcome more than anything. That my team and I try to make sure they're as welcome and they have a great time. And if they have any questions, they just talk to us. I mean, I've had so many great stories from customers that have just coming here for the first time. They're like, I was so nervous. I didn't know
Yep.
what to expect. I'm kind of an introvert. And that's another thing too. Some people are really have anxiety about
Oh,
going to
yeah.
bars, very busy, but they want to come sometimes here where they can kind of relax a bit, they can chill and kind of do it on their own time and feel like, they can have fun, but do it at their own pace. They don't have to be caught up in high levels of drinking if they don't feel like it. They could just chill and have fun and meet people and connect in a social space and chat. And I think that's what it's for sure.
Yeah, and I was gonna say I can absolutely comment on that part with the going to like the gay bars and clubs downtown, especially yourself.
Yeah,
From the suburbs, for me, it was always terrifying. I'm like, oh my God, they're all gonna look at me. They're gonna see that I'm not
judge.
like this supermodel and that I'm a real body.
Right.
And no, it's so welcoming. And yeah, it's just that social anxiety. And once you realize that it is truly a very welcoming, inviting community, it's just amazing.
Sexy is in the eye of the beholder. I've
There
always
we
been a
go.
big believer in sexy is in the eye of the beholder. I tell people, do not count yourself out. You
Right.
never know what kind of gorgeous, hot man or person is going to be into you. Like my
Hmm.
boyfriend is into me, which I go and go, whoa, he's so hot, but I'm shocked. But he's
Right.
like, no, me. And I'm like, okay, but you
All
never
right.
know what is going to be attracted to you. It's
Yeah.
another reason why even when people are leaving here, we ask if they had a good time, much like they do at a hotel. How was your stay? And if somebody
Oh.
says, yeah, it was good, it was great. And then you sometimes hear from people, there weren't some of the guys that I kind of like. I wish, sometimes they say, yeah, the kind of guys I usually like aren't here. And then we ask them, what kind of
Oh.
guys do you like? And they say, well, I usually like big bears with hair.
Yep.
And there weren't a lot of guys there. Like, oh, you should come to our bear nights. Oh, wait, you have those? And then you have some guys
Ah.
who are sometimes a little bit bigger or even smaller who say, yeah, I like guys that are, younger. I'm 25 and I like guys around my age. I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
you can come to our boys' night on Thursdays. Guys 18 to 25 get in free on Thursdays, 4 p.m. to 4 a.m.
Damn. Okay.
And yeah, on Thursdays. And so a lot of daddies come to that,
Right.
but also a lot of guys that want to meet guys their own age. So
Yeah.
if you were me back when I was 18, I was looking for a community of people around my own age. I couldn't go to a bar because I wasn't 21, and I
True.
wanted to meet other like-minded people that are my age that I could kind of hang out with, and kind of meet because I'm, just coming out or I'm having fun in my age, but I don't want to get into the bar scene, but I want to meet guys around my own age and maybe I don't live in the area. And suddenly you can come to our 18 to 25 night and, meet other guys your own age and it won't
Hmm.
cost you anything. So maybe you'll meet
Yeah.
guys around
Bonus.
that age. And yeah, and so you'll be able to develop a community of people around your age and then potentially even develop more, long-term friendships that come from that. And now you have a space to come every week that is free for you, that you can come in and enjoy, that is welcoming specifically to younger people, and also potentially younger people of color that may not have access
Oh,
to these kinds of events.
true. Didn't think about that.
Financially may not be able to afford it, or they may not be able to come to these in general, or but they can come to this on Thursday night and have fun and not worry about it, affecting their, their wallet,
Right.
and for younger people especially. And we all know everything is so expensive. So,
Oh, yeah.
you got to have some things for younger people. So yeah, I'm glad that we have things like that, that we try to cater to variety of different types of people. You should be here, by the way, for our trans men event. That's
That's
every
the one I want to
Monday.
go to. Yep.
It is so packed. Our trans men event. Trans men are
Really?
welcome here. Yeah, trans men event.
Yeah.
Trans men are welcome here 24/7, 365. One of the reasons I created our trans men event, it's called tm4m.org,
Hmm.
or sorry, TM4M, and we worked with an organization in San Francisco back when called tm4m.org,
Oh,
on that name. And the idea was that there are a lot there. The city that, there are various events at various bars, and they are trans focused, and it's great.
yes.
And I love that. And trans men, trans women, their admirers, they're all welcome. And I also noticed that a lot of the public attention and a lot of the magazine covers they go to trans women. There's
True.
been one trans man on RuPaul's Drag Race in like 17 years.
Oh,
And
yeah.
trans get a lot of the glamorous visibility, but trans men don't.
No,
And
they
so
don't.
I wanted to create an event, much like our bear event. Again, trans men are welcome here 24/7, regardless
Of
of your
course.
gender marker. But I wanted to create an event for trans men, that so that they feel like they can come and have a party. It's specifically for them and their admirers, so that they feel like they can meet other trans men, and they don't have to be lumped in to the trans group that includes trans women and everything, where they sometimes will get kind of left to the side a little bit, and their
Oh, okay.
specific journey is kind of somewhat overlooked. And I
Right.
like, no props. I love our trans women coming in, and we're very glad our trans women event is actually every fourth Monday, and that's tonight. But I really wanted
Oh,
to focus on trans men and
yeah.
their inclusion in our community, especially if they identify as gay, so that they feel like not only are they welcome here anytime, but also we have a night dedicated, and they feel like, this is a party like any other one, and we can come for that, and then we can have fun, and we can feel like we've taken over the place, and it's great, and it's super super busy, and they have a blast when they're here, and we're very grateful that they feel comfortable here. And I want to make sure that they feel like there are events that are catering to the trans male community. And so I'm glad that it's working well, and they seem to be happy. So that's important.
Wow. Yep. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. So, last but not least, so to put a bow on everything here, when you think about the future of Queer Chicago, what gives you hope personally?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I hate to, I mean, I love it, but it's the younger Gen Z crowd. I mean, they
Yep.
are more engaged with sex positivity and inclusiveness. I think because of that, it's forcing a shift even in our own community to understand what the T means in LGBT, and why it's
Yes.
important for our entire community that trans lives matter, that queer, Black, and brown people deserve a seat at the table and should be heard. Chicagoans are adaptive, and it's important that LGBTQ businesses owners reconcile with animus and treatment, of treatment of the trans community and Black and brown queer community that speak up. I'm glad they are. And so it's good that we have younger Black and brown queer community members, and young trans people, and even the Gen Z, a more inclusive crowd, that are speaking up and saying, hey, we expect you to be more inclusive. We
Right.
want you to feel like there is a more inclusive environment where you are, and that you should be mindful of these specific issues that affect, Black and brown LGBT queer people, especially if we're going to be performing potentially at your bars, or we're going to be, coming to your
Right.
businesses. You need to be more open to what we're saying about respecting Black and brown, issues as it pertains to how they're treated, and how they're treated inside, how they're treated at the business, and how trans people are treated in general. This came up a few years ago, when after George Floyd was murdered,
Oh
and it
yeah.
was yeah, and it was about time that Black and brown LGBT folks told LGBTQ businesses on the north side how they
Mm,
feel and what changes they believe need to happen to make Lakeview, Andersonville, and other queer districts in Chicago more welcoming. And they did. And those were a lot of younger people who basically put a lot of LGBT businesses on notice and said,
wow.
this is what you guys may say that you're inclusive, you may say that you believe in our rights,
Hmm.
but are you hiring managers? Is your business representational of the queer community at large? Does it have a nice breadth of different people at management levels that look like me so that I feel like I'm represented? So that, I think, comes from a younger generation, but this Gen Z crowd in general, they didn't grow up with AIDS.
Mm,
They're a little annoyed about the monster amount of apps out there, and they're more engaged in, kind of getting out there and having fun. And but
right.
they're also very much about advocating for rights, advocating for Black and brown queer community rights, advocating for trans rights, and it's great. So I mean, I have that gives me a lot of hope for the future of queer
Absolutely.
Chicago, because they are definitely changing. And even people who have the problems with the woke, and they have problems with,
Hmm.
the pronouns and all this shit. It's like,
Oh
shut up.
yeah.
We have evolved over the years. There were so many people, the queer flag, the rainbow flag, da da da. Oh my God. I'm like, look, dude, everybody evolves. Our
Right.
community, if it stays stagnant, doesn't evolve. If businesses don't evolve, they die. And the same thing with our community. We are adaptive. We have grown. This is a good thing that we are in
Hmm.
making sure that trans people are represented on the flag, and that Black and brown, queer LGBT people are represented on the flag, and that this feels inclusive because this is now a different generation. And so
True.
they should feel like it represents them, because they're going to be continuing the fight as we get older. So why turn your back on progress just because it doesn't suit you in this small area? You should be engaged in that kind of progress, because that is what drives change. And so I do have hope, even after the flag change in the last couple of years,
Oh yeah.
uh,
Hmm.
that it really made me feel like there is definitely a Black and brown young community, and trans community, and Gen Z, even those who don't even identify as gay, they identify as fluid, but they
Yes.
are out there supporting us. The number of people that identify as LGB or T has gone up quite a percent. And it's great to see people identifying more like that. So it's, welcome to our group. Please sit at our table, help us fight this fight. We're glad to have you. So it's great to see some of that large amount of activism, and openness and straightforwardness when it comes to what they think our community should look like in the future. So that's exciting.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's beautifully said. My God, my hat is off to you for that. Well done. Well done.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so speaking of which, so where can listeners learn more about Steamworks Chicago, upcoming events, or ways to support the community work you guys are doing over there?
Oh, so you can go to
Yeah.
our website, steamworksbaths.com/Chicago. You can go to steamworksbaths.com to learn about our Berkeley location, our Vancouver location, about the different charitable organizations they're working with each month for for our 50 weeks of giving, because both of those locations are doing it as well. You can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, Blue Sky, for updates on our 50th anniversary events and ways to enjoy our facility, find out about our bag policy. Here's to 50 years and still going strong.
Right.
We're happy to be here, and we're going to just continue to do the best we can to be a changer in the community.
Yeah, and absolutely. Here's to the next 50, Nirm. Absolutely, my man.
Thank you, absolutely.
Yeah, so
Oh, it's orgiastic, man. You got
yes,
to be that way.
orgiastic. And I will absolutely make it out one of these Monday nights coming up. I will suck it up, get my nerves, and I will just show up and have fun. So
Well, come on, again, it's exciting, especially
yeah,
it's funny, more guys, I've talked to guys who are like, I like trans men, da da da, da, and they don't want to say it out loud. They don't want to say it. It's much like gay guys who don't want to say they like straight porn. And then
right.
you kind of, you kind of normalize it, and more guys kind of like slowly raise their hand. It's like, it's okay, it's okay. You don't
Yeah.
have to be afraid of liking different types of things and kind of getting into that, and that's sort of fine for you. It's good to have a variety of stuff so people feel better, and more included in their sexuality, so they don't feel like any kind of shame. And I'm glad we can provide a space where people can kind of grow, you know,
Right.
internally, and feel better about themselves.
Absolutely. Well, Nirm, thank you so much for your time and sliding on in this week. We will absolutely talk to you soon, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having us. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
No need to knock, the door's unlocked. Come on in, let's have some fun. We'll make it hot, won't wanna stop. Slide on into Suburban Slut. No need to knock, the door's unlocked. Come on in, let's have some fun. We'll make it hot, won't wanna stop. Slide on into Suburban Slut.